The Ambazonia Governing Council, the AGOVC, is apprised by the January 19th, 2021 statement made by the U.S. Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, during his confirmation hearing at the U.S. Senate. Much as the AGOVC thanks and welcomes Ambassador Blinken's statement of condemnation against the aggressor state of Cameroon, quote and unquote, atrocities against the Anglophone population, would like to remind America that the erstwhile British Southern Cameroons, whose people in their overwhelming majority now prefer to be called Ambazonians, is a different independent country from Cameroon. An independence that the United States of America voted on April 21st, 1961. Ambazonia is now only under colonial occupation by Cameroon. The appellation of Anglophones to describe Ambazonians is a smart trick by Cameroon to hoodwink the international community to have the impression that Ambazonia is part of Cameroon. It is baffling to the people of Ambazonia how the world community knows and understands Cameroon's tricks, but prefer to be complicit in this brazen act of colonialism and ongoing genocide. Ambazonians continue to demand that Cameroon respects international law, namely Article 4B of the African Union Constitutive Act, by respecting its boundaries as obtained at independence. On a related diplomatic note, the AGOVC equally takes cognizance of the friendly campaign for Ambazonia by Honorable Emily Thornberry, UK Member of Parliament. May we stress and reiterate that the silence of the international community in the face of black-on-black colonialism, ethnic cleansing, and genocide in Ambazonia is complicity, pure and simple, and that words alone are insufficient to bring the war to a close, and that history is noting and shall not forget. In the interim, we seize this opportunity to inform the people of Ambazonia that the kick-off diplomatic start between the Biden administration and the Ambazonia Governing Council smacks of hope for the people of Ambazonia. By dint of this relationship, the AGOVC assures Ambazonians that diplomatically, the year of 2021 shall be different. On the organization of the African Cup of Nations, AFCON, in Fako, in the Atlantic state of Ambazonia, the AGOVC notes the rightful lackluster attitude of Ambazonians towards the tournament and shames AFCON in their complicity for colonialism and their stubborn refusal to heed to the call of the Ambazonian people. In fact, the first in history of football, first in history of sports tournament, an international football competition is organized in a war zone with players ferried to the stadium in armored cars under the cover of darkness. No, it was and it's a scam. All is not well. AFCON knows this. Shame on AFCON. Meanwhile, Ambazonians respect the African Cup of Nations competition and care about the security and safety of the delegations involved. We look forward to the future when a sovereign and liberated Ambazonia shall take part in the competition and collaborate with the AFCON towards a safe, friendlier, more engaging organization of AFCON's tournaments in Ambazonia with pomp and razzmatazz. Now, on the rumored lockdown, the leadership of the AGOVC that doubles as the leadership of the Ambazonia Liberation War would like to inform the people of Ambazonia that no lockdowns have been called at this time. Ignore rumors propagated by enablers. Also ignore their empty threats. The ADF and all its allied forces have been instructed to arrest anyone hired to disturb the peace of the people of Mezam in the context of a so-called lockdown. The AGOVC leadership also informs our people that the attention of the hierarchies of the Ambazonia Governing Council and the War Council have been drawn to a fundraiser organized on social media with the sole intent, as per the proclamation of the very organizers, to attack the training camps of the Ambazonia Defense Forces. The AGOVC reminds the public and any force on ground zero not part of the Restoration Alliance that the training camps of the ADF, including distances of up to 2 kilometers perimeter, all around and about the camps, are effectively restricted military areas earmarked as green zones. The AGOVC makes this pronouncement with all its strength, and this pronouncement is to whom it may concern. Reaction to Christian Cardinal Toomey. Over the past few days, the Ambazonia social media blogosphere has been inundated with statements made by Christian Cardinal Toomey to the effect, and amongst other things, that Ambazonia restoration forces are intolerant and would condemn persons holding contrary views to death. The Cardinal also said that restoration fighters were Nigerians and that restorationists were in the minority. The AGOVC has painstakingly studied the words of the Cardinal very carefully. We notice his statements of recent are consistently inconsistent. A few months ago, the Cardinal was arrested by the same restoration forces, and upon the Cardinal's release, he confessed on national and international media how humane he was treated despite the fact that he held a unionist opinion. Moreover, last year, the Office of the Cardinal conducted an independent survey authoritatively concluding that more than 98% of Ambazonians prefer outright independence. Now, reputable medical doctors and healthcare professionals within the AGOVC leadership are not ruling out senility, the deterioration of the Cardinal's cognitive functioning associated with his age. The AGOVC's Department of Health and Human Services, the HHS, seriously advises the Cardinal to spend most of his time taking a rest and do very minimal exercise as needed. And now defense. In defense matters, we would like to make the following announcements. Number one, the AGOVC president just rose up from a 2-day working session with the leadership of the Ambazonia War Council and top Ambazonian generals. A more aggressive and offensive strategy for 2021 is being designed. Number two, on January 20th, 2021, at Batibo precisely, the Ambazonia Defense Forces dismantled a post belonging to a terrorist group called Militaire Camerounais. The ADF fiercely engaged Cameroon's occupation forces for straight 8 hours, leaving 3 of the enemy forces neutralized. 1 ADF soldier fell during the battle. We salute his bravery. Our hearts go out to his family and loved ones, and we proclaim, may his soul rest in peace. Ambazonia shall be free. On the same day, in Manu, our forces overpowered an incursion by Cameroon's forces at a certain ADF camp, forcing the colonial forces fleeing in multiple directions and scampering for cover. Lastly, in defense, on January 27, forces of the ADF Bamenda Brigade carried out 2 successful sophisticated strikes on the armored cars of Cameroon's occupation forces in Aziri and Travelers Junction. Cameroon registered huge number of casualties with 0 ADF deaths. On issues surrounding humanitarian actions and international humanitarian law, the AGOVC leadership is horrified by the slaying of 4 Ambazonian students in Meta Quarters, Bamenda in the Savannah states. We note that these teens were slaughtered in a non-combat attack by elements of Cameroon occupation forces. The deceased were not fighters and had no weapon on them. Just like other murder cases committed by Cameroon's terrorists, we condemn these killings in the strongest possible terms. The AGOVC calls on the world community to not only denounce such brazen ethnic cleansing and genocide, but to quickly act upon the Hague of Sea's request on the invocation of the responsibility to protect the people of Ambazonia. Still on humanitarian issues, the Hague of Sea announces that upon request, the Hague of Sea has granted permission to 3 agencies of the United Nations to visit Batibo in the Savannah states. These agencies are the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, the UNHCR, the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF, and Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA. The Hague of Sea Intelligence, the intelligence unit of the Hague of Sea, has sufficiently conducted its background checks and cleared these agencies for access. Consequently, the ADF and all its allied forces have been ordered to ensure safe passage of UN agency vehicles with the following number plates: CV13015 and CV11471. They shall be visiting hospitals and some communities. The Hague of Sea recognizes the need to improve complementarities between our mutual efforts, create synergies with the international humanitarian system, and ensure that affected populations receive the best assistance and services in a cost-effective manner, in keeping with the rules of war. And lastly, the last aspect of our weekly briefing is the Hague of Sea elections towards strengthening the democratic institutions of the Ambazonia Governing Council. May we remind the people of Ambazonia that in keeping with the constitution of the Ambazonia Governing Council, Hague of Sea, we will be moving forward with the election of the Hague of Sea president and vice president. Article 54 of our constitution provides that the president and the vice president shall hold office during the term of 4 years, renewable ones. The first term of the current Hague of Sea presidency and vice presidency ends on midnight of February 8th, 2021, Ambazonian time. And the president and the vice president shall be elected by the voting members of the Council of Missions on the 9th of February and will be installed into office on the 11th of February by the chairperson of the Committee of Rules and Order in the Council of Missions. The Hague of Sea announces that so far 2 candidates are on the ballot for the post of the Hague of Sea president at the February 9th, 2021 elections. The candidates are: number 1, Comrade Ayabacho Lucas; number 2, Comrade Horace. Both men shall face off at a one and only debate on Sunday, January 31st, 2021 at 6 p.m. Amber time. The debate shall be moderated by the Hague of Sea chairperson, Council of Missions, Comrade Anaka. At the polls on February 9th, members of the Hague of Sea's Council of Mission for each county shall, on February 9th, caucus according to the following grouping in alphabetical order: Boyo, Bui, and Ndonga Mantong shall constitute the first caucus. The second caucus shall be Fako, Kupe Mwanenguba, and Lebialem. Manu, Meme, and Menchum shall constitute the third caucus. And finally, Mezam, Momo, Ndian, and Ngo Katunjia shall constitute the fourth caucus. Results of the elections shall be streamed live in real time via all official communication channels of the Ambazonia Governing Council, including the Ambazonia Communication Network, the ACN. You just listened to Akosin Raymond, the spokesperson of the Ambazonia Governing Council, with this week's edition of the People's Weekly Briefing. And I thank you all for your kind attention.